Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
I'd really appreciate your comment. It helps me understand if you enjoyed the story and how I can improve in future ones. I'm Grant Ellis. I'm 41 years old, a logistics consultant based just outside Columbus, Ohio. The kind of work that keeps your calendar full but your evenings open, which used to matter, back when home was where I wanted to be. Lately, though, home feels like a waiting room. Like I'm sitting around, hoping for something that stopped showing up months ago. It started quiet, subtle. That's how these things always begin, right? First, it was her screen lighting up just a little too often during dinner. Then it was a shift in posture, angled away from me, eyes on the phone, thumbs moving like she was writing secrets. A few times, I caught a glimpse of the screen. Nate, Jim, just that name. But I know how names change when someone wants to hide a truth. I also know my wife never liked the Jim. She stopped asking how my day was. The silence around dinner got thicker. She used to crack jokes about my spreadsheets and cargo routes. Now she barely noticed when I came in the door. Her routine changed. Yoga on Tuesdays became happy hour after. I offered to join her once. She smiled like I'd misunderstood the entire premise of the event. 2 weekends in a row, she left early Saturday to meet some friends. Came back late. One time I asked how it went. She said, "Which thing?" Her mind was elsewhere, or with someone else entirely. I tried to convince myself it was nothing. People drift, get tired, routines harden. But there was something off in the way she handled conversations. When I asked about her day, she gave 2-word answers. When I mentioned planning a trip together, just a weekend getaway, she stared at the table and muttered something about timing. Her laugh changed too. It used to bubble up when we'd watch stand-up on the couch. Now it only appeared during text conversations that I wasn't part of. That hurt more than I expected, because joy had become something I had to watch from across the room. One Thursday, she came home in a dress I'd never seen before. Tight, elegant. She walked right past me, phone at her ear, heels clicking across the hardwood. I asked, "Date night?" She turned, surprised I was still there. "Client dinner," she said. "Last minute." I nodded and went back to my report, pretending that was normal. A week later, I found myself standing in the kitchen with her phone in my hand. I didn't plan to check it. It buzzed while she was upstairs showering. Screen lit up. "I miss the way you taste." That's what it said. Same contact. Nate, Jim. My fingers froze. I felt cold, like I'd stepped into a place where the walls were made of lies and silence. I could have opened the message, read the whole thing, but I didn't. I just set the phone down, stepped away, and stared out the window. Our neighbor across the street was watering his lawn like everything in the world made sense. That night, I lay awake listening to her breathe. Same rhythm I'd memorized over the last 9 years. Same woman, different soul. I remembered when we used to whisper stupid things in the dark just to laugh quietly. Now, her side of the bed might as well be another continent. The next morning, I started noticing details. Not just the missing warmth, but the deliberate coolness. She closed doors when taking calls. She changed her phone passcode. Even the way she folded laundry changed. Like she didn't want to linger near me any longer than necessary. That's what betrayal looks like when it's still pretending to be busy. I started keeping track instead. Call logs. Changes in spending. New clothing tags in the trash. I made digital copies of financial records. I started routing paychecks into a separate account she couldn't access. There wasn't malice in these decisions. She left her planner on the counter one afternoon. I glanced at the week ahead. Meeting for PM Hilton. That's not where her office meets. And it wasn't the first Hilton note I'd seen. I printed every suspicious entry, tucked them into a manila folder, locked it in my desk. I wasn't going to confront her mid-lie. I was going to wait until the mask was secure enough to pull off clean. Last Saturday, she told me she needed space. Said she was feeling trapped. I asked what she meant. She said she missed feeling alive. That she didn't know who she was anymore. I nodded, offering nothing. She studied me, maybe hoping I'd beg for details. That night, while she pretended to sleep, I lay in the living room. The TV was on mute, just light flickering across the walls. Our wedding photo still hung over the mantel. Her smile looked genuine in it. Mine too. I stared at it for a long time, trying to remember if it ever felt as real as it looked. Something had shifted. In her, yes, but also in me. I want the version of myself that didn't need to ask why someone had stopped loving him. I didn't say anything the next morning. I cooked breakfast like always. Made her coffee. She barely noticed. But I did. I noticed everything now. Every flicker of hesitation. Every fake excuse. Every time she touched her phone like it was her real partner. And somewhere inside that growing silence between us, a switch flipped. I wasn't going to be the man who asked what's going on. I was going to be the man who decided what happens next. Sunday morning began like a ritual we both stopped believing in. She padded into the kitchen wearing a hoodie that wasn't mine. She called it her comfort layer, but I'd seen it once in the gym parking lot when I'd driven past on my way home. On him. I made breakfast without asking. She scrolled her phone like nothing needed acknowledgement. Her silence wasn't peaceful, it was loaded. We sat across from each other, forks scraping plates, two ghosts playing house. Her eyes didn't meet mine until I asked if she still planned to see her sister that afternoon. She canceled, she replied, tossing the lie out like lint. I said nothing. That exact response had come up twice this month. Later, she emerged in tight jeans, makeup perfect, and heels meant for hardwood and bar stools, not family visits. Running errands, she said, grabbing her purse. Might be out a while. I nodded. She glanced over, likely waiting for a question. When none came, she paused at the door. You good? I answered, better than expected. She froze for a split second, then left. I knew where she'd gone. Hilton, room 311. Reservation under a name close enough to hers for plausible deniability. I watched her location ping from my laptop. I'd installed software weeks ago, disguised as a joint security update. She never asked about it. Probably too busy managing lies. While she disappeared into her double life, I went to work. Canceled a credit card we shared. Set alerts on the other. Transferred utilities into my name. Every step was a puzzle piece sliding into place. She had no idea she was walking across a bridge I was dismantling. She came home past midnight. Hair tousled, lips glossed, eyes wide with faux surprise that I was still awake. Long line at Target. She mumbled, dropping her bag on the floor. I tilted my head. Hope you got what you needed. She froze, then smiled too quickly. Of course. I let the quiet hang until she disappeared upstairs. The next morning, she played cheerful. Too cheerful. Made toast she never eats. Commented on the weather like she was trying to reset the clock. I let her talk. Halfway through her monologue about a new gym class, she asked, You okay? You've been really quiet lately. I looked up from my coffee. Just thinking about next week. She blinked. What's happening next week? I stirred my cup, letting the silence carry weight. A few changes. She waited. I offered nothing more. By midweek, her tone shifted. Friendly became dismissive. Don't wait up tonight, rolled off her tongue like a dare. I responded with a simple, wouldn't dream of it. That threw her. She expected resistance. She expected protest. I gave her space. Thursday night, I noticed her suitcase in the closet had been shifted. She never moved it. That meant one of two things. She was considering leaving or preparing a test. Either way, it confirmed my timing. Friday came with new tension. She dressed like a magazine ad. Body spray thick, lipstick bold. She said she had a networking mixer for her firm. I offered a smile. Enjoy yourself. She narrowed her eyes. You don't mind? I shook my head. Why would I? Her mouth opened, but no words came. She returned just after 2 a.m. I was on the couch, watching an old playoff game. She paused in the hallway, watching me watch her. Still up? I muted the TV. Didn't feel like sleeping. She shifted. I'm exhausted. We'll talk tomorrow. I waved her off. Sleep tight. That night, I didn't sleep much. I was calm. The kind of calm you feel before the final move in a game you've already won. Saturday morning, I sat on the porch with coffee while she packed for another fake yoga retreat. Weekend getaway, same city, same hotel, same man. I watched her haul the same duffel she denied using 2 weeks earlier. Want me to walk you out? I offered. She looked at me like I was speaking in riddles. No need. Be back Sunday. She kissed the air next to my cheek and left. She didn't know that I'd already notified the leasing office about changing the locks, or that my lawyer would be emailing her a draft of the separation agreement Monday morning. She didn't know the suitcase she packed would be her last walk through our shared front door. The build-up had become her blindfold. She assumed silence meant defeat. That tolerance meant weakness. But every delay was a decision. Every ignored insult, every recorded lie, every late night was a calculated investment in closure. By the time Sunday came, I didn't wait for her. I left early, took the folder to my lawyer's office, and finalized the filing. Let her be confused. Her pressure wasn't a test. She walked through the door late Sunday evening, hair freshly blown out, a faint trail of expensive perfume clinging to her sweater. She looked rested, even radiant, as if a weekend away had somehow healed the damage she swore wasn't there. I stood by the kitchen island, sipping bourbon, manila folder already laid flat on the counter. She smiled like we were fine. Traffic was brutal, she said, setting her bag near the entryway. I might jump in the shower, and then... I cut her off without raising my voice. Tell him you'll be free by next week. I'll handle the paperwork. She froze, keys still dangling from her fingers. Her pupils dilated. For a long second, she didn't blink. Wait, what? I placed my glass down, reached for the folder, and slid it across the granite surface. Inside were printed documents, clean, thorough, signed where they needed to be. I've drafted a separation agreement. Read it tonight. I'll send it to the attorney tomorrow. She stepped closer, as if by proximity she could rewind the moment. Grant, what is this? I looked her in the eye. It's what happens when someone mistakes silence for submission. Her breath caught, the weight of her assumption crumbling under its own arrogance. She'd imagined she held the strings, that I'd endure indefinitely, that my restraint meant approval. What are you talking about? Her voice shook, though she tried to steady it. I gestured to the folder. You and I haven't been married in any real way for months. You replaced connection with secrecy, intimacy with excuses, and truth with performance. She opened the folder. Her hands trembled slightly. The pages detailed everything: division of property, financial boundaries, expectations around debt. Clean lines. She flipped through slowly. This is real. I nodded. It's overdue. Her eyes scanned the clauses, likely searching for something dramatic. A trap. A punishment. She'd find none. I'd removed emotion from the equation, because emotion had stopped being part of our marriage the day she gave it to someone else. She leaned against the counter. You're serious? Completely. I thought we could talk, she whispered. You had months to talk. You chose silence. You chose errands. You chose weekends with him. So now I choose this. Her gaze dropped. I didn't think you knew. That was your mistake. I walked past her, heading toward the stairs. Her voice followed. Why now? Why this week? I stopped at the landing. Because clarity has a deadline. She slept on the couch that night. At least, she tried to. Around 2 a.m., I heard her shuffling through papers again. More than once, she paused outside the bedroom door. Morning came with rain. I brewed coffee, reviewed a shipment schedule for work, then checked the email from my lawyer confirming receipt of the signed documents. She emerged wearing the same clothes from yesterday, mascara smudged. Can we talk? I sipped my drink. I already said everything. She sat across from me at the table we'd shared for 9 years. So this is it. You asked me that last month when you said you felt trapped. I just didn't answer then. I didn't mean any of it the way you think I did. I don't think anymore. I know. She wiped her face. He's not what you think either. It's over. I tilted my head. You still lied. Still chose him. Still went back. She covered her mouth with one hand. Regret hung between us, thick and sudden. But it didn't change the equation. Damage done doesn't get undone with confessions. It just changes form. I was confused, she said softly. You were deliberate. She fell silent. I'm not here to argue, I added. This isn't a revenge plan. This is freedom for both of us. You mean that? She asked. Every word. Her eyes welled, but I held my gaze. She had made her choice. Now she'd experienced the absence of mine. I went to work that morning lighter than I'd felt in months. The meetings felt sharper. My thoughts clear. The ring on my finger felt like someone else's jewelry. I took it off and slipped it into a drawer in my desk. That night, she texted me. Can we delay filing? Just a week? Please. I replied once. You have until Friday. Then it becomes final. Nothing else. 3 days later, she started crying during dinner. Asked about therapy. Suggested a trip. Offered to delete everything. Photos, accounts, even friends. She kept the folder close after that. Studied it like a test she hadn't prepared for. She lingered longer in the mornings. Made my coffee again, too late for it to matter. One evening, she sat beside me and whispered, You used to fight for us. I turned to her. I did, until I realized I was the only one swinging. That Friday came quietly. She placed the signed documents on the counter before work. No tears or arguments. Just a line drawn finally, After months of pretending the canvas was still blank. By the end of the week, I handed everything to my attorney. She hadn't moved out yet, but the energy in the house had shifted. Her presence was no longer central. It was temporary. She knew it. By Monday morning, she was still in the house, but the tone had shifted entirely. She moved through rooms carefully, no longer stomping around like she owned every square inch. Her laughter had evaporated, replaced by long silences, broken only when she tested conversation starters that sounded forced. She offered to make breakfast. I declined. She paused at the fridge longer than necessary, waiting for a reaction that never came. When I left for work, her "have a good day" landed awkwardly, like a message written too late. That night, I arrived home to find her sitting on the couch with candles lit and a movie queued up, our first date film. A weak attempt to rewind time. She patted the cushion beside her. I stayed standing. "You sure you want to spend energy on pretending?" I asked. She swallowed, unsure whether to speak or retreat. "I just thought maybe we could talk." I nodded. "We already did. With paperwork." The next day, she tried a new angle, playfulness. She sent a selfie from her office. Lipstick perfect. Caption, "Remember this color?" I stared at the message for a full minute before closing the app. The silence that followed was louder than any argument we ever had. By Wednesday, the desperation showed. She cornered me in the hallway before work. "What if we take a break instead of filing?" I adjusted my tie and stepped around her. "You already took one. I'm just formalizing it." Later that evening, her best friend called me. Voice strained. "She's a mess," she said. "Keeps saying she never meant for it to go this far." I listened but offered no comfort. Intentions don't change results. The call ended quickly. Messages started rolling in from others. Her brother sent a short text. "Is everything okay between you two?" I replied simply, "Everything's being resolved." Her mother left a voicemail I never returned. Even her coworkers began looking at me differently when I dropped by the office to pick up documents. One mutual friend reached out. I didn't know she was seeing someone else. I didn't confirm or deny. People can connect their own dots. By Thursday, she started unraveling in real time. She showed up at my office unannounced. Security buzzed her up. My assistant looked uncomfortable. "She says it's urgent." She entered my space like it was still hers. "We can fix this," she whispered, tears brimming. "We can go to counseling. Delete everything. Start over." I leaned back in my chair, composed. "You're offering restoration after theft. That's not reconciliation. That's panic." She broke. "I made a mistake." I nodded. "And now you're living inside its shadow." She stepped forward, hand outstretched. "It's too late to reclaim what you handed away." Her fingers trembled in midair, waiting for a hand that never met hers. Eventually, she left. Friday evening, I arrived home to find her packing. Slowly, meticulously. Her suitcase sat open on the bed like a confession. She paused when I entered, searching my expression for mercy. "I'm going to stay at my sister's for a bit," she offered. "Maybe some time away will help." I raised an eyebrow. "Help whom?" She stared at the floor. Before she left, she walked through the house like someone visiting a museum. Stopped at the wedding photo. Touched the frame, probably for the last time. "You used to love this picture," she said quietly. I glanced at it. "I used to love who stood next to me in it." Her jaw clenched. Her voice barely audible. "I thought I had more time." "You spent that time elsewhere." She stood there a moment longer, waiting for softness. I gave her distance instead. She stepped outside without another word. That weekend, she called multiple times. I sent each to voicemail. Her last message was long. A stream of pleas and rewritten stories. "I didn't sleep with him the first night," she said, like that line moved anything. I played the message once, then deleted it. Sunday passed without a trace of her. Monday brought the signed and countersigned final paperwork. My attorney called to confirm delivery. A neighbor saw her the next day and told me she looked lost. Hollow. Like she didn't know where to go. I thanked him and kept walking. The man she'd spent weekends with? He vanished the moment she used the word divorce. She mentioned it to one of our friends. Apparently, he blocked her number within hours. Her exit path had evaporated, leaving her with nowhere soft to land. People who once admired her began asking quiet questions. What happened to the two of you? She never seemed unhappy. I offered no gossip, just a steady phrase. Things revealed themselves. Every attempt to rally support came back fragmented. Sympathy from others felt different when they saw her walking alone into a coffee shop she used to visit with me. She tried posting a throwback picture of us, captioned with a vague line about reflection and healing. Comments were limited. One of her girlfriends commented, "Hope you're okay." Another replied with a simple damn. She removed the post later that night. Each move she made was a delayed reaction to a truth she'd underestimated. She thought I'd hesitate, that I'd grieve loudly. She expected tension, not structure. But she got none of that. What she experienced was the cost of losing a man who gave her every opportunity to stay, without begging once she walked away. The consequences weren't loud. They were surgical. 2 weeks after the final signature, the silence in my house started sounding like peace, not absence. I moved my clothes into the guest room for a while, even after she left. A small ritual of reclaiming space without ceremony. Then I walked into what used to be our bedroom with a single trash bag and emptied her nightstand. Photos, lotions, a cracked charger, quiet relics of a life that stopped existing long before the marriage officially did. The drawer closed easier once it was mine again. I started changing the locks, one bolt at a time. No announcement, just a simple decision made real. On Sunday, I repainted the living room. Neutral tone, clean. She always picked bold colors, insisting they reflected energy. I chose something that reflected stability, something you could sit inside without explanation. By midweek, her mail stopped arriving. Even the post office understood. That Friday, I sat across from my attorney one final time. We reviewed asset divisions, insurance adjustments, the closing account transfer. He slid a manila folder toward me. "That's it." I nodded, reached for the pen, and signed without pause. That evening, I drove past the gym. Her car was parked near the back, tucked behind a silver sedan with a license plate I now recognized. I kept driving. She reached out that night. Texted, "I saw your car earlier. Thought maybe you were going to say something." I typed one word, "No." Deleted it. Typed again. "There's nothing left to say." Then I put the phone down and went for a walk. The weather had shifted. Crisper air. A breeze through the trees. Even the sidewalks felt different, like the weight of false hope had finally lifted. I walked to the diner we used to avoid because it wasn't her style. Sat at the counter. Ordered eggs and black coffee. The waitress smiled like I belonged there. The following week, I updated my emergency contact. Deleted our wedding playlist from my phone. Canceled the shared cloud storage. She sent another message later that week. Voice memo this time. Longer. More personal. She talked about the early days. About how we used to laugh until we couldn't breathe. She mentioned how I surprised her with coffee when she was promoted. How I supported her through her father's stroke. "I miss who we were," she whispered. The pause in her voice said more than the words ever could. I saved the message. Because clarity deserves proof. She wasn't evil, just reckless. She misjudged the boundaries of love, mistaking endurance for weakness. She learned, too late, that what survives isn't always what stays. I heard from her cousin a few days later. Said she moved back into her mother's place. Takes long walks. Cries a lot. Doesn't talk much. I listened without smiling. She had claimed freedom, and now she stood in it, alone, surrounded by echoes. I don't follow her social media. I don't ask mutual friends how she's doing. Curiosity lost its value once I realized closure wasn't owed. My days filled up again. Work, lifting, Saturday night bourbon with jazz humming in the background. I signed up for a volunteer shift at a local shelter, because helping someone rebuild felt aligned with where I was. I kept the manila folder in a drawer next to my passport, a symbol of choices honored, of identity recovered. She tried one last time, 3 weeks later. A final text. "If you ever want to talk, I'd listen." I didn't respond. She'd had time to talk. She chose silence. Chose someone else's arms when mine had always been open. This wasn't revenge. It was alignment. Her whisper, "Wait, what?" reverberated for days after I set the terms. That shock wasn't about betrayal. It came from watching the one man she underestimated refuse to grovel. She thought she could choose dysfunction indefinitely, and I'd continue adjusting to her chaos. What she learned is simple. Respect isn't demanded, it's exchanged. Once broken, it doesn't return. And a man who walks in truth doesn't return either.
Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.